All right. Hey, this is Pastor Jeffrey V. Guns, Second Calvary Baptist Church. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Study. We have been talking about Holy Week and the significance of the events that occurred on each of the days. Now, this is the day Thursday. Thursday. And so this is the first day of unleavened bread when the Passover lamb was being sacrificed. His disciples said to him, "Where do you want us to go and to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" And that's Mark chapter 14, verse 12. I'll read verses 13 on down. And he sent two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the city, and a man will meet you carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wherever he enters, say to the owner of the house, the teacher says, 'Where is my guest room in which I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' And he himself will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready. Prepare for us there." The disciples went out and came to the city and found it just as he told them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he came with the 12. As they were reclining at the table and eating, Jesus said, "Truly, I say to you that one of you will betray me. One of you is eating with me." They began to be grieved and to say to him one by one, "Surely not I." And he said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who dips with me in the bowl. For the Son of Man is to go just as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been good for him. It would have been good for that man if he had not been born." And so, verse 12 then is earlier in the day on Thursday. And so we think of this Thursday as Maundy Thursday. And why do we call it Maundy Thursday? It comes from a word that simply means mandate. It is the day that we commemorate and recognize the institution of the Lord's Supper, which was on the Thursday prior to Good Friday. Remember, Jesus was crucified on Good Friday or Friday, the 15th of Nisan, which would have been the day of the Passover. And so Jesus sends two of his disciples into the city of Jerusalem, and he says to them, they're going to meet a man, follow them, and he will show you where to go. And Jesus gives them all of the identifying factors that they need to look for. He's going to be carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. Now, this is an unusual thing because men didn't carry water. Women carried pitchers of water. And so Jesus tells them to look for an unusual sign, a man carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. And he follows Jesus. They follow the man, and they say that the master has need of a room for the Passover. It is a large room where they will gather together and eat the Passover. Now, notice something in these other verses here. Verse 17, when it was evening, he came with the 12. And so this would have been about 6 o'clock in the evening. They had come together to eat the traditional Passover meal. And that was where they would sacrifice something, sprinkle the blood over the door, and they would remember the Lord's deliverance of them from bondage in Egypt. And Jesus said to them that one of you is going to betray me. And all of them began to ask, "Surely not I." And you know, the reality is it could have been any one of them. It could have been any one of them, just as it can always be any one of us who betrays the Lord by the way that we live or the things that we do. And he said to them that it was one of the 12. And so while they were eating, so there is this traditional meal. Some people call it a Seder meal, but there is this traditional meal that they would eat together. And they would drink together. And so while they were eating, Jesus does something entirely different. He took some bread and then he blessed it and then he broke it and he gave it to them and said, take it. This is my body. And so they're sitting there, they're enjoying the Lord, they're enjoying the Passover meal. And then Jesus solemnly takes some bread, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to them and said, take, eat. This is my body. And and then afterwards, he took a cup and he said in verse 23, and when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. And he said to them, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say to you, I will never again drink of the fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God. And so here, Jesus institutes the Lord's Supper, which for many Protestant denominations and the Roman Catholics and Anglicans and others all commemorate in some way the Lord's Supper. In our tradition, which is, we're Baptists, of course, we believe that the Lord's Supper is a repeatable reminder of the death, suffering, and resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ, that the broken bread symbolizes his body, that the wine symbolizes his blood poured out on Calvary for us. And so it goes on, and Jesus then begins to talk about what's going to happen. And we are told that in verse 26 that they sang a hymn and then they went out into the Mount of Olives. So the Mount of Olives is a city that is adjacent to the city of Jerusalem. We'll show you a picture of that where you see the Mount of Olives and you see the city walls and you see and the Mount of Olives was also the place where the Garden of Gethsemane was. And so when they went to the Mount of Olives, they went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and the word Gethsemane means wine press. And so Gethsemane was a place where there were lots of olive trees and a wine press for making wine. And so as they were going along, Jesus said to them, "All of you are going to fall away. You're going to leave me." And Peter says that in verse 29, "Even though all may fall away, yet I will not." And Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, this very night, before a rooster crows twice, you yourself will deny me 3 times." But Peter kept on insisting, no, Lord, it's not going to be me. And so they go into Gethsemane. Verse 32 says they go into a place called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, "Wait here until I have prayed." And so Jesus goes and he prays, and he took with him Peter, James, and John, who are considered to be the inner circle of Jesus. And he tells them, let's see, verse 34 says, "And he said to them, my soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch." So remain here and keep watch. And he went a little beyond them and fell to the ground and began to pray that if it were possible, the hour. And so he's praying. Jesus prays to the Father. And while they are there, he goes away twice and he comes back and he comes back a third time. And he said to them, verse 41, Are you still sleeping and resting? It is enough, the hour has come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. Behold, the one who betrays me is at hand. So the disciples, Peter, James, and John, and the rest of them, they all fell asleep. They all fell asleep, and they left the Lord alone. And so and then Peter, Judas comes up right after that, and he's accompanied by a crowd with swords and clubs, who were from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders, and he was betraying him, giving him a signal saying, "Whomever I kiss, he is the one. Seize him and lead him away under guard." And so Judas conspired with them and told them how to recognize them and then what to do after they had seized him. And they laid hands on Jesus and they took him away, and they took him to the high priest. And verse 50 is an interesting verse because it says they all fled, all of the disciples. All of the disciples. I was scratching my nose there. All of the disciples. Verse 50 says, all of the disciples, and they all left him and fled. A young man was following him, wearing nothing but a linen sheet over his naked body, and they seized him, but he pulled free of the linen sheet and escaped. Now, some people think that this was John Mark. This verse talks about John Mark, who was the writer of the Gospel of Mark. They think that this verse describes John Mark. There's no real reason not to say that it was John Mark, and there's no real reason to say it was John Mark. We don't know, but that's tradition. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and then he is tried. He is tried for blasphemy, and they bring all of his words back up to him. And they said in verse 64, "You have heard the word. You have heard the blasphemy, and how does it seem to you?" And they all condemned him to the deserving of death. Some began to spit at him and to blindfold him, and all the officers received him with slaps in the face. Imagine, Jesus is being spit on. He's being slapped. He's being knocked around. And Peter comes up, and Peter denies him. Peter denied him. And verse 66 through 72 contain the three denials of Peter, where Peter denied Jesus 3 times. That was a word fulfilled. And then verse 15, chapter 15 says that at the end of the night, early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders and the scribes and the whole council immediately held a consultation, and binding Jesus, they led him away and delivered him to Pilate. So Pilate questions Jesus for a while and finds no fault in him, and asks, who would you rather that I release? Jesus or Barabbas? And of course, the people said Barabbas because they were inspired by the chief priests. And the soldiers then took Jesus away in verse 16. Jesus is taken away to the palace, that is the Praetorium. And now the Romans had a fortress built right next to the temple. It was called the Antonio Fortress, and we have pictures of that, the Antonio Fortress. And so they took Jesus to the Antonio Fortress. The Antonio Fortress. Wow. And as Jesus was eventually released by them, and we're told that they dressed Jesus up in purple, and after twisting a crown of thorns, they put it on him, and they began to proclaim him, "Hail, King of the Jews, King of the Jews!" And they kept beating his head with a reed and spitting on him, and kneeling and bowing before him. Now these are the Roman soldiers doing this to Jesus. And after they had mocked him, they took the purple robe off of him and put his own garments on him, and they led him out to crucify him. They pressed into service a passerby coming from the country, Simon Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to bear his cross. So Simon of Cyrene is asked to help Jesus to bear his cross. And now this was an African. And so verses 22 to 40 really kind of give us some of the words of Jesus from the cross and some of what happened while he was on the cross. And then we're told that Jesus, after he is dead, Joseph of Arimathea comes and requests the body of Jesus and buries Jesus in his own tomb. And then we know what happened after that, because 3 days later, Jesus is raised from the dead. All right. Well, I hope that that you have enjoyed this short series of studies on the last days of Jesus, and we hope to see you soon. Goodbye.